addressing the health, welfare, and safety of all children nationwide, because it shouldn't hurt to be a child. Here are your hosts, Tammy Stefano and Priscilla Perez.
Hi, everybody. Welcome today to the National Safe Child Show. We have an incredible and very sensitive show today, and we just want to thank you for being with us. This is Priscilla.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show and our special guest as well, Betsy.
Yes, Betsy is a grandmother, and her grandchildren and their father have a case within the family court system. And there has been a lot of things going on and a lot of concern with many grandparents here in the United States concerning their ability to be able to maintain an ongoing loving relationship with their grandparent, and how many times that their relationship is severed simply because of a court proceeding. And as we all know, I mean, my Nana was my everything. I mean, with all due respect to my parents, she was definitely more important to me. I just adored my Nana.
Well, grandparents are the fun ones. You know, they're the ones who spoil the children, and they're the ones that, you know, they love their grandparents, and grandparents love their grandchildren.
That's right.
And you know, with Betsy's story, it's just, I mean, I honor you, Betsy, you know, for your courage, your strength, and just for always, you know, moving forward and just continuing this fight. Yes, absolutely.
So welcome, Betsy.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here today, and we've actually been waiting to get Betsy with us. She's a grandparent who has been fighting for the right to just maintain a relationship, the loving bond that she has had with her two grandchildren. So maybe we'll begin by just asking you, how old are your grandkids?
6 and 7.
6 and 7 years old. And have you been involved in their lives from the time of their birth?
Yes, both of them.
Both of them. Pretty steady relationship with them?
Every day.
Every day. You lived near, you guys lived near each other?
Yes, and they lived with us from 2011 to 2012.
Okay, great. And so now something very egregious has happened, right?
Right.
What has happened, Betsy?
We were ordered no contact with our grandchildren December 4th of this year.
Of last year.
Of last year, correct.
Right. December 4th, the judge gave an order. You are not allowed, just you or you and your husband?
My husband and I.
Not allowed to see your grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Did they, do you have a criminal record?
No.
No. Did they find you to be a danger to your grandchildren?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever abuse them, or were you ever accused of abusing them?
No.
No. What was the reason that the court gave? I mean, did you ever go before the court? Let me ask you, did you ever speak to the judge?
No.
Never went.
Wow.
No.
What was the reason that the court felt entitled to put this order in effect? Or do you even know?
No, I don't have any idea.
You just got this order. Now, it's your son that is the parent that maintains physical custody?
Right.
Okay. So, did you go to court that day with your son?
No.
No. You just waited at home.
Right. Right.
Hopeful, nervous, praying
Right.
for a good situation, a good outcome. And instead, what did he come home and tell you? Or what did he call you and tell you?
He actually called and said, it was in February, it was on February 7th actually, where he called and he said, I'm coming to get the kids. You're not allowed to see them unless it's supervised.
And this is going back in February.
February 7th.
So the first thing that the courts did was take you and your husband?
Right.
So it's always been you and your husband?
Right.
Okay. They made an order for you and your husband to only visit your two young grandchildren who you had a bond with from the time of their birth, to be now under the scrutiny of a visitation monitor. Did you have to pay?
Yes, we did. $45 an hour to a private investigator.
A private investigator.
Right.
Was this person a visitation monitor?
That's what we were told.
Okay, who told you that?
Our attorney.
Your attorney. Mm-hmm. Who picked out this monitor?
The attorney.
Your attorney.
Right.
When you say your attorney,
right.
You mean your son's attorney?
Right.
Okay. Is that person still your son's attorney today?
No.
No.
We let her go in October.
Okay, so your son told her, I no longer want you to represent me. Did he say, because I don't think that you're representing me properly?
Correct, and after a number of threats that she made, yes.
Threats to your son?
To me, to my son. That I was supposed to tell my son these are the things he was supposed to do. And then she told me her exact words verbatim were, this is what's going to happen. Your son is going to lose those kids. He will be paying child support to the mother. He will, if he does not, he will lose his job. He will lose his driver's license. He will lose his happy home. And you will not see your grandchildren until they age out.
For those who do not know, Betsy, the story, because I'm sure that some of our listeners who are listening, they're getting just little pieces here and there. But can you tell us a little bit more of where the story began?
Right, in a nutshell.
Yes.
And bearing in mind that, folks, the case is still ongoing. There is information that we can't put out right now because the last thing that we want to do
is to compromise any child.
Yeah, exactly. We are here to protect children.
Exactly.
And we certainly don't want to have these grandparents who have already, honestly, been not only taken hostage.
They've been through the ringer.
They have been through the ringer. Yeah. They are so distraught. Betsy has called hundreds of times just in tears just to say, I just need to talk for a minute. I just miss them so badly, and I love them. Betsy and her husband do follow the rules, folks. And, I don't know if I could be so brave. I mean, I know we have to follow court's orders naturally, and I would never advocate for not.
Right. We always advocate for legal and just maintaining composure while you're going through such an ordeal, which it's what she's done. It's what they've done.
Yes.
But even though you've done everything that they've told you to do, you've jumped through every hoop that they've asked of you. And not only is it not helping, but you are being threatened. You are being told certain things that you will never see your grandchildren again.
Right.
And
cut ties. You're done. And why are you done? Well, because a judge sitting with a black robe who never talked to you.
Nope.
Never questioned you, never got a feeling, an intuition, a gut that, gee, I don't think that these people are really healthy to be around this child.
Now we know you don't have a criminal record. You never talked to the judge. You were never present.
Right.
I mean, you weren't even present in court the day, when your son called you. So basically, there aren't any allegations against you or your husband, and yet you are the biological grandparents, and you are not entitled to see your own grandchildren?
No contact, no letters, no phone calls, nothing.
No, based on what terms, though? I want to know based on what terms, if there aren't any allegations.
Exactly. Well, and another thing I want to know, based on, how did he make that decision, but also he had already ordered the both of you to be under supervised visits since when? February, you said.
Right.
So did you ever have an opportunity to see or contact or reach out just on a one-on-one basis with your grandchild since he placed that order in February? Almost a year ago.
Mm-mm.
No?
Are you?
I'm all right.
You know what, folks? This is abuse. This is abuse
of not only of the children who are living this every day, but this is abuse of society, of our human rights. And what you have gone through, Betsy, and just with the things that we know and the cases that have come forward, when do you feel that your abuse began?
When we started seeing the 7:30 evaluator, my son was called in for a 7:30 evaluation.
Was this court ordered?
Yes, it was court ordered. We were called in for the evaluation as well, because he said that the evaluator said we played an intricate part in the children's lives. He wanted to interview us. He interviewed me first, and then he asked that I take an MMPI-2, which I obliged because I thought that was the thing to do. I thought it would help.
Right, you're not hiding anything.
Right.
For those, can you explain what an MMPI-2 is so they can understand, so our listeners know?
It's a personality test
Exactly.
that psychologists use to gauge what type of person you are.
Right.
My husband went in. They did not make my husband take the MMPI, just myself. However, when the report came out, my MMPI results were not included in that. When we had questioned why they were not, they said that they didn't have to include them. But I did ask that I have my results because I'm entitled to it according to the California Board of Psychology, that any test taker is entitled to their test results. So what I received in the mail were charts and graphs, no results, and then told that I could not get the results until after my son's case was over.
After his case was over, how long has the case been going on?
2009.
Okay,
Wow.
so 2009, we're talking about years, folks, that the case has been going on. Do you feel that when this 7:30 evaluation was presented to the court, that this was a major turn in the way that this custody hearing, because that's what it is, folks, it's not a dependency hearing, this is again in family court, this custody hearing completely changed the dynamics?
Absolutely it did.
It was based on this 7:30 evaluator.
Absolutely.
I know that you had spoken with me, you did some background research just because you couldn't figure out what was going on. What just happened? It was like a Mack truck just came and boom, just ran over you and your husband and completely severed your relationship, daily relationship perhaps, with your grandchildren. And what did you come to find out from this evaluator that actually administered this evaluation?
That he wasn't licensed or registered with the state of California.
He was not licensed.
my God.
So is there a website in which somebody can look up to see, folks, you need to look and see when you make an appointment, is this evaluator even registered?
Yeah, you go to the California Board of Psychology.
And you looked and you ended up finding out he wasn't even registered.
We were told he was not registered, and the only thing, when I asked for his credentials, the only thing that they sent me was his resume. And that resume included working in an art gallery and Sony Entertainment. But he was still in the midst of doing his dissertation when he had seen me. And when he asked me if I was familiar with the MMPI-2, I told him yes, I was, because it was the first test that we did when I was in college, when I was taking psychology. And, and he was a little bit intimidated by that. But prior to me having met him, he had already made slanderous remarks to my son about me.
Such as?
My grandchildren had a meltdown after meeting with him. My granddaughter, who is 5 years old at the time,
It's okay, honey.
said that when she came home, she said, he keeps saying, "Mother, mother, mother." And I said, "Please don't call her that. That's not my mother. She hurt me." The children ended up having severe meltdowns, both of them, wet the bed. And my son called and said, because of what happened, the children had severe meltdowns. And he said, if they had meltdowns, it's something you or your mother had said or done to the children.
He wasn't present. This is just something that this unlicensed intern decided to fabricate. He put it in a report that then got admitted into evidence, and it became fact. Is that right?
Yes, we were told that the only thing that the judge would look at was the 730 evaluation. He wasn't willing to look at anything else. He wasn't willing to look at reports that SELPA had done that disclosed the abuse.
We're going to go back. We haven't even
right.
We haven't even educated the listeners yet and the public yet, because you really need to pay attention. What drove this case? So your son and this woman have 2 children. What happens that causes, in a nutshell, I mean, people argue, whatever, but the ultimate decision that was made to separate, and ultimately for the courts to give your son physical custody versus the mother, was what allegations were brought forth?
The sexual abuse by the part of older siblings and the mother touching my granddaughter inappropriately. They were taken May 11th of 2011 to the police department. And
who took them?
Actually, my son was called to the police station.
Okay.
And my son called me an hour later. He asked me to bring my granddaughter up, which I did. And she took Alyssa into another room.
Who's she?
The detective.
Okay.
Had taken my granddaughter into another room and talked to her. When she came downstairs with my granddaughter, she had stated, I can't send them home. I can't send her back home. I can't lay down on my pillow and go to sleep knowing what I've sent her into. I start crying because I wondered if, they were going to send the little boy back. And she said, no, both children. At that point, she had called CPS, the emergency response worker. CPS came in. They came up with a safety plan. The mother was told not to harass us, which she did that night at midnight.
When the safety plan that CPS made, did it state that the children were better off in the dad's home?
Correct.
Based on what? Disclosures from the children?
Right.
And these disclosures, in a nutshell, folks, without getting too in detail, we will one day, but right now, again, because the case is ongoing, these disclosures pointed to someone in the mother's household.
Correct.
Who had sexually violated them.
Correct.
Was it more than one person?
Yes.
Okay. More than one person in mom's household who had sexually violated. Did these people violate both of the children?
Yes.
The police felt that there was enough evidence, and
to remove the children.
Yeah, I honor this detective that did the right thing, and there are police, law enforcement out there that do the right thing, and we honor you. And then the CPS worker came in.
And then that's where everything changes.
Well, no, they listened to the cops and they did the right thing. And they did this safety plan, and they put the kids in the safe home, which was with Dad, who never had any allegations of abuse.
It was when the 730 eval came in.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. And that's the problem. The unlicensed, again, intern.
It's still, even though we do the show every week, it's still I just can't believe that we are still in family court. Why, as a society, we haven't changed it to the point where we know this is a criminal matter and this is in family court when this should be in criminal court. This is just appalling.
That's right.
It's appalling. And no matter how many stories we come across, no matter how many cases, it's still, it pisses me off so bad.
Absolutely. It pisses all of us off. And this grandmother, folks, this is her daily stab in the heart. There's no more laughter. There's no more going out with the girls on Sunday to have lunch like she used to do. There's no more fun times. She has been stripped. Now, on top of everything, bear in mind, how many biological children do you have?
One.
Your son.
Right.
So this is, again, the double whammy, because not only has she lost the ability to have any, not even phone contact? No contact whatsoever. Betsy has shared with me that she is afraid to even write a letter to let her grandchildren know that she loves them. This wasn't her decision. So think about that, folks, from a child's perspective. Priscilla, you know what it's like, right?
Right. And when you don't hear from them, you feel that you are forgotten.
Yeah.
You feel that they don't love you. You feel they're not coming back. You feel that this is your life for the rest of your life.
And they just left you. And therefore, what happens, you feel like you're bad. You did something wrong.
Exactly.
Because Grandma and Grandpa would never leave me. They love me. So what did I do? Children do not understand.
They don't.
Doesn't matter how much. And then the court, makes sure the at the end of every order, what does it say? You are not to speak to the children about any adult concepts, including anything that happened while you're in the court. These grandparents can't even explain that, listen, it's not our decision. We love you. We have to abide by the law. Why? Because we don't have a criminal record, and we are law-abiding citizens here, and this is what we have to do.
As a result of all of this, it's has strained my relationship with my son.
Completely, right?
It's strained my relationship with my husband. Our lives have basically been turned upside down, so I can only imagine how the kids feel about what's happened, what's going on with them. Where if my son is putting the kids to bed at night and they will say, when are we going to see Grandma and Papa? He has to divert that completely. He can't talk about us. He is not allowed to talk about us.
Because recently, all right, I want to get into another component that's really, really important to this case. The children, after all of the law enforcement, they're disclosing, they are then sent, obviously, to a therapist, right?
Correct.
The first therapist was who?
SELPA.
Okay, we don't want to disclose individual names, but SELPA. SELPA is a therapeutic organization that
in Apple Valley.
Okay, that administers therapy to child trauma victims of all sorts. Okay.
Correct.
They go into their therapist. How does that work out?
They were doing well. They were there for a year and a half.
With the same therapist?
Yes.
So they formed a good bond, a trusting bond.
Right.
Okay.
Right. A very good bond with them. Actually, we would head out there one day a week. We were in Apple Valley, and then one day a week, a therapist would come to the house for their behavioral issues as a result of the abuse.
Of course, of course.
So after a year and a half,
what happened to sever? In other words, did you just not like SELPA anymore?
No.
Did the kids say that they didn't like their?
Absolutely not.
They loved their therapist. They had grown a
Absolutely.
bond. You were very pleased because your grandchildren were pleased, and your son was happy, and things were changing, right, in your house, and the kids were feeling more secure and safe, right?
Right.
Who severed that relationship between these young children, and how old were they when they began that?
They were 4 and 5, I believe.
Young.
And
who severed that relationship? Who stopped them from seeing that therapist?
The judge.
The judge.
The judge said that he felt that SELPA had aligned themselves with us and created false memories in the children.
Created false memories of what? Abuse?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So, in a nutshell, why did he get that feeling? Was something given to him?
That was based on the 730 report is what we were told. We're not privy to the 730 report. However, some things, they tried to join us to the case in April.
Of 2013?
Yes.
Okay.
And the judge denied it, but certain things were disclosed at that point.
Such as?
Them removing SELPA because we wanted to know why in the minute order, which is public record, states that they suspended SELPA.
They suspended SELPA.
But it was never readdressed. Nobody ever readdressed the fact if you're suspended, well, you're thinking hopefully they're going to reinstate them. But it was never brought up again. And then the judge said, you have to find another therapist for these children.
Right. But let's stop for one moment because this is important.
So the children were doing well.
Right. For a year and a half.
For a year and a half. And then he stopped them. He stopped it.
And that's the important thing, folks. You need to understand why suddenly here's a judge. He's looking, this is a reputable facility. And as a matter of fact, they do a lot of work for the court, by the way. But in this particular case, he looked at a report, and it wasn't, my understanding and my perception after really evaluating this case was it wasn't just the 730. Actually, SELPA admitted a progress letter to the judge, did they not?
Several of them.
Several of them. And what was SELPA consistent in telling the judge?
That the children would be better off with the father.
Why?
He was more protective.
Did SELPA come to think that maybe the children had been coached to have this belief, this false belief that they were sexually abused? Or did SELPA, after a year and a half, feel comfortable to say they were sexually abused?
My grandchildren disclosed the first visit that they had in our home to SELPA. SELPA put that in a report and had done reports, had kept doing the reports. Every court date, SELPA would do a report. And the thing was always, the conclusion always was that they were better off with the dad and having contact with the parental grandparents. That was always the thing. They never even touched on the abuse. They were just trying to get the kids to change their behavior because of the abuse.
And to heal from the trauma.
Right. And that's what we were very active with that. We would go into the sessions. We'd sit on one side of the wall, and they would be in with the kids, or vice versa. We would be in, they'd be on the other side, and they'd be recording. My son was very involved. The three of us were very involved with the therapy of the kids, so that we knew, what to look for, the trigger points, what was going to cause them to have meltdowns and stuff.
Right.
Just restructuring basically their behavior.
Right.
So wait a minute, you just stated there were multiple reports by this facility.
Correct.
And you just stated that they were recorded. Was that admitted into court?
No. The lawyer never, my son's lawyer had never asked for anything.
Okay.
So there's not only, black and white evidence, but you also have a recording stating that the children disclosed and that everything was getting better.
Right.
It's
They were in the
evident,
process
and
of
he
healing.
stopped it.
Right. Well, not only did he stop it, folks, it gets worse. It goes spiraling down. Now he stops it in court and says no more for no valid reason. And as a matter of fact, when children are taken from a therapist and put into another therapist, it's really hard for them. And there is the issue of co-transference.
Right.
And it's really hard for them to build that trust. The trust has already been gone based on the abuse from somebody that they love and trusted. Now they gain this trust with the therapist. And this judge, did the judge ever meet the children?
No, he never did.
This judge, who doesn't know the children, doesn't know the grandparents, takes that therapist away. And what does he make an order to do? Does he order another therapist?
He told my son to find another psychologist.
And did he?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They had been seeing somebody else for 4 months. Court was coming up. They
I
needed.
mean, how did it go with that new therapist?
Oh, the kids were doing wonderful with her. Wonderful.
Did the
They
therapist?
disclosed.
They
to
disclosed
her.
again.
Absolutely. They were waiting in August 27th hearing, in which the psychologist wrote a report, because that's what the judge wanted, reports.
Okay.
And as soon as that report was presented, the judge said, no more sessions with this psychologist.
No more sessions with the second therapist. In that report, did it show that they believed the children were abused?
Absolutely.
So we've got two reports, folks, two different therapists. There is allegations, and I'm not going to say by who, but we pretty much have figured it out, that these grandparents and the dad have the ability to brainwash and manipulate the therapist, now two, to make up these felonious reports, and they must be doing something wrong. What does the judge order with the second therapist for the children? Continue to see them?
No, he suspended her as well.
He suspends the second therapist now.
Now court orders a therapist of his choosing.
A therapist of his choosing. Now, the judge, and this is on transcript, that he chose a therapist by name.
Yes, he did.
By name in the court, folks. He gave these children a new therapist. And did he ask for any recommendations specific to this therapy?
No.
No. Okay. I don't want these two therapists. They're done. They're still believing these kids. boy, oh boy, tough for the kids, right?
Right.
And they go to a new therapist. How long have they been? Are they with a new therapist now?
Yes.
And how long?
Probably about 2 months.
They go in, they meet this new therapist. Do they like her? Oh, you don't really know because
No.
you don't really talk to them.
Nope. I don't have a clue. I only listen to what my son tells me.
Okay.
And it's our conversations are very limited.
Of course. He's afraid, right?
Right. He is always on his guard. What if, because the judge did say one more thing. Your kids are gone.
Now, in the court, in the transcripts, in any evidence ever given, has your son done anything wrong?
Nope.
Not one allegation, folks, in the courtroom against Dad. All Dad did was step up to the plate.
And try to be the best dad that he could be.
Exactly. Did he ask for money from Mom for child support?
Absolutely not.
I don't want money from you. You know what I want to do? I want to keep my kids safe. This isn't about money. It's not about power. It's not about control. Did he ever stop the kids from talking to their mom?
Absolutely not.
He encourages them, is my understanding.
Absolutely.
For months that I've been privy to this case, he actually encourages them. How do the kids feel about their mother?
They don't. Sometimes they'll talk to her. Most of the time, it's no. I'm done talking. They don't want to talk. Lissa, my granddaughter, actually said to her mother, "You hurt me. You hurt me." Is what she told her mother, and she said, "I'm done talking." They encourage it. My son recently married, and the stepmother encourages the kids constantly, talk to them, talk to your mom, talk to your mom.
How do the children like their new stepmom?
They like her. They do
like
a lot of things together.
It's a
As a family.
It's a family unit.
Well, yeah, parks and picnics and stuff like that.
Things that families do.
Exactly.
Normal
Right,
families.
The way that children are supposed to live a life.
Right.
My son got married November 28th.
Tell me about that a little bit.
We had to hire, my son actually paid for it. We had to hire the monitor to come for the 2 hours because my husband and I were in the wedding. The monitor was there with another person just to,
To monitor.
the interaction with the kids. And I told my husband, hug them, kiss them, because this will be the last time we see them. And it was actually the last time we got to see them. The day before they went to court was the last time I got to talk to my grandchildren. We could not go to my son's reception because they had it at their house, and the monitor said if it was in somebody else's house, she may have been able to do it, but because it was my son's house, absolutely not.
You couldn't go to your son. She couldn't even go. She has one child, folks. She couldn't go to her son's wedding because a judge looked at an intern's report and made a decision about a family's entire life. And as a matter of fact, that intern wrote whatever he wanted. And obviously, we're not sure what he wrote, but we can be sure that it wasn't good because...
Obviously.
Now, bearing in mind, these grandparents are not part of this case. His interaction with them should have been simply on a collateral basis just to get a feel for the children's lives. Instead, this intern, who wasn't even done with his education, actually took these two grandparents and made them the subjects of attention. Literally took the dad out because there is no focus on Dad. When Dad goes into the court and Dad's threatened, why is he threatened by the judge? What is it based on?
I have no clue.
Is it based on you and your husband?
I think so. According to the transcript, which again is public record, the judge has blasted us more than 4 or 5 times in one single transcript.
And what does he say to your judge? What does the judge say to your son? You are out of line, right? You're making a mistake. And when your son says, what have I done?
You're violating a court order. You let your parents talk to your children. and you allowed your mother to say, certain things to the kids.
What did you say about love to the children?
I said, I always have told the kids, I love you more than the moon and the stars and the skies. I've had plaques made for their bedrooms that say that. But in talking to them, I would always add more than anything or anybody. However, that was turned around, and
they made it
seem like I said, I love you more than your mother, and that never happened. That would never happen.
Grandparents don't do that. Even when you don't like the mother, even when you despise her, and we know mother-in-laws can, having a love for your grandchild,
right?
You're not going to say that because it's not going to be good for your grandchild.
So what he did with that piece of information was say, that's it. No contact. No contact with the grandparents.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
So they, in the transcript, what do they state in regards to the relationship with the mother, the abuser?
They said that the mother now has unsupervised visitation, and it was a part of my son's consequence for letting us talk to the kids.
So the abuser has more rights to the children
Absolutely.
than a person who never hurt the children.
Right. That's the
abuser.
Point. That's the point.
Abuser.
What did the judge say? Did the judge, and this really pisses me off, folks, because judges are not allowed. When they sit on that bench, they are supposed to be impartial, non-biased, and they're supposed to look at the information, which we know many don't do. They do show partiality. What did the judge ever give any type of legal advice? Now, wait a minute, folks, this is really important. When's the last time that the mother took the time to visit and physically see her children?
The last time that she's seen her children was March.
Of almost a year ago?
Mm-hmm.
Did she move out of the state?
Absolutely.
She moved out of the... She left her children. Folks, that's not... I mean, I know that there are cases where a mom leaves her kids. Sometimes she's just got to get away. I get it. Sometimes situations are egregious. We're not here to judge. But 1 year, you have an order where she can see the kids, but she doesn't take advantage of it?
No. She was given supervised visitation through the same place that we were given.
Wait a minute. She was given supervised visitation first.
Right.
And then the judge ordered you have the same monitor that mom had?
The lawyer did. He said we were to have supervised visitation.
But with the same person?
Absolutely.
That's a conflict of interest.
Oh, my God.
That is a complete conflict of interest. Did this supervised visitation monitor write notes for you?
We have vague notes.
Vague notes.
Very vague notes.
Anything bad?
No.
No. Great visits.
Mm.
The judge is sitting on the bench. How does mom come to court?
She court call.
She calls in and is allowed to conference call as her appearance, right?
Right.
Does the judge give her any legal advice while he's sitting on the bench and prohibited by law to do that?
He absolutely did. He told
Is that in the transcript?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It is.
What did he say?
Which is public record. He told her to file for move-away orders.
Mom doesn't have an attorney?
No.
This judge took on being mom's attorney because these grandparents, for one reason or another, have pissed him off. He's never met them, never heard a word, and yet he's now sitting on the bench and giving a litigant improper legal advice.
4 times.
Which is illegal.
4 times he alluded to the move-away order. The last thing he said was, ma'am, you need to start filing your move-away order so we could get working on it.
Oh, my
So
God.
we meaning who? Him and the mom?
Yep. That is what I'm taking it to believe.
So him and the mom, do you feel that this judge has a preconceived, predetermined decision already made and has for a long time?
Oh, absolutely he has. Absolutely. The lawyer, my son's lawyer, basically confirmed that.
How so?
In her wording, you listen to everything she says about, what exactly was going to happen, the steps that the judge was going to take.
before the judge took him.
Yes.
Before the court date.
Yes.
Did she become very much like a fortune teller and say, here's what's going to happen? No, really. Because
there's an outcome that they want.
Yeah.
And
well, it was a predetermined
Yes,
outcome.
exactly.
And we had gotten that. And my last conversation with her, she did tell me what exactly was going to happen, and what is going on is what we're seeing in the court now, where my son is not allowed to speak, the mother is allowed to speak, the judge is now giving legal advice to the mother,
and he's telling her, file a move away order.
Wow.
And what does the judge tell your son about the move away order?
What he said was, one more violation, these kids are gone.
But he never violated, right?
No.
When he says one more, you have to have violated to begin with. The violation that the judge is looking at is the hearsay from this intern that grandma said, you said that you love these children more than the mother, which guess what, folks? If a mother doesn't see her children in 1 year and makes no attempt, this grandmother who sees the children every day does love the mother more. I mean, does love the grandchildren more than the mother. I mean, let's just call a spade here.
Exactly.
You
But
know?
not only that, I mean, she abused the children. And
she allowed abuse in her home.
Exactly.
In her home, in her
Exactly.
watch. She has other children, right?
Yes, she does.
Is there any evidence, was there any allegations that they were sexually abused?
Absolutely. Her oldest daughter was abused by a biological father, and the biological father spent 18 months in prison for it.
I personally have looked the biological father up that her 2 other children lived with, and I am going to post later on today on the NSCC site, his criminal record. I have confirmed it. He is registered. He is a sex offender with a minor. He served time and got convicted.
Correct.
And I just can't believe this.
So we get a 7:30 evaluator.
Exactly.
Another thing is, did the attorney, before your son dismissed her from any further representation, did she ever make a phone call to your house and leave a message on your machine, which this is not against the law, folks, if you use this simply because you didn't tape it, it's a tape recorded, so therefore it is
admissible in court.
It is admissible, and they knowingly were recorded.
Exactly.
So did she ever get out of line on a tape that she left to your home?
Absolutely.
What did she say?
Oh, she just screamed the whole time.
And what was she screaming?
About the case, that I had to be quiet.
You better shut your mouth.
Yeah, be quiet.
You better, what else?
That I needed to pretend like it never happened.
Pretend like what never happened?
The abuse.
If you continue to talk about this abuse, your son is going to lose his children.
Absolutely.
Was this admitted in court? Because now we know that it's admissible in court. It was never admitted.
No.
It was never allowed, or it was because it was not admitted.
I lost the tape.
I just want everybody to know, before she lost the tape, I personally listened because she did let me. And this woman, I've never heard an attorney act like this. She was screaming like some of the distraught parents that call when they've just lost their children. I couldn't believe that this was an attorney, so much so that the next conversation that happened, I was on the conversation and I had to actually speak to the attorney just to keep her toned down and have her act in any professional manner. And you tried to get your paperwork back from her. That was a struggle.
Yes.
And finally, I talked to her. We reasoned it out. I put a deadline, and she gave it, right? Did she give it all?
No.
No.
They misplaced 130 pages of 140-page documents that I gave them.
How do you misplace?
An attorney.
Exactly.
This isn't a courtroom, folks. This is an attorney's office. Everything has to stay in one file. We've got this attorney that clearly screwed up. Did the attorney ever talk to the mother?
Oh, yes.
Wait a minute. But the attorney represented your son, correct?
Absolutely.
You paid her.
Absolutely.
Your son paid her to represent him.
Right.
But she had ex parte communications with the mom?
Absolutely.
Did you begin to see that she was sticking up for the mom?
Yes. Yes.
Did she ever say she's a good mother?
She said, no court will ever take away a mother's rights. And I said, it happens all the time.
All the time.
What she said, her exact words were verbatim were, this poor mother with a low education who has low financial means is doing the best she can. she has a daughter that is suicidal. And I said, that is not what we heard in court. What we heard in court is that she was cutting herself.
She's cutting.
She's cutting because she's probably abused.
Right.
And so what I
That's
asked,
what cutters do.
Exactly.
That's what abused children do.
I said, well, we didn't hear that in court, so you must know something that we don't know. So I believe that you're having communication with the mother, and I need to know who you're working for.
Right. And
what
that
did
is
she say?
She told me to shut up.
Yeah. You began to get abused by the courts. You were abused by your son's attorney, who was supposed to do everything in her power to represent her client. According to state law, she began to actually advocate for the mother.
Yeah, you know what? Half the time she wouldn't even call my son. She would call me, and she would try to engage me in a battle, which I was glad to oblige. But she would engage me in battle of the wits, is what I called them.
Yeah.
And, you know, she had made a lot of horrible statements, you know, telling me that I better never forget that I live in a fishbowl, and that she said, I warned you not to rattle that judge's cage. And it was like, well, I don't know how I did that. And then she said, you violated court orders.
Because you made the statement. There's no... I've looked through the court orders. I've read the transcripts, folks. I've read every piece of paper that is publicly available. There is nothing. There is no direct allegations. It's all of this chatter in the courtroom. Tell us the most important component. The court has 2 documents that say, from therapists, licensed therapists, that say these children weren't coached. They didn't make it up. Somebody didn't put it in the mind. They were sexually violated. This third therapist comes in. She just wrote a report for the court. The therapist that the judge hand chose, by the way. And what was the report? What did this report say?
It disclosed the abuse.
And
what my grandson had said about, you know, grandma saying she loves me more than the mother. But in the transcript, the judge said, in regards to what I supposedly said, is I'm going to take it as fact that it is a fact that my grandson divulged this to the doctor, completely overlooking the sentence that says that he disclosed the abuse.
Okay, wait a minute. This is an important component. The judge, on transcript, in open court, and on record, folks, says on this third report, he sees one sentence, and the sentence says, Grandma said she loves me more than Mom does. This therapist puts this in this report, and the judge then says on record, I am going to take this as fact, and therefore I am going to suspend all future contact between your mother, Mr. Dad, and these children based on this. I'm taking this as fact. Verbatim is actually what I saw in the transcripts.
Right.
When the other 2 reports from therapists were admitted, they were begging this judge, would you please look to protect these children? Would you look at this? This is not our words. We're not professionals.
But the first two said and disclosed the abuse. The third one disclosed abuse, but only looked at that one sentence. The judge didn't even look at the disclosive abuse.
And what he actually said was the other 2 reports that disclosed these children were in danger, he is not going to take as fact. He's not admitting this. So the judge picked and chose once again what he was going to take, and the only thing he took was, I'm going to follow through what I've already preconceived, and I don't want these grandparents around, so this little sentence here, I'm taking it as fact. And ultimately, what did this new 2-month only therapist recommend ultimately to the court? Any reunification?
It is reunification. At first, she didn't realize that it was reunification, that the kids were coming there for reunification. Now the judge has ordered reunification through Skyping.
So the process has begun, folks. Has Mom ever... Well, she hasn't seen them for a year.
Right.
How do you reunify somebody who the kids are telling you, I don't want to talk to you, you have hurt me, and you're not even making an attempt to try to see me? You can just be a kid to see she doesn't really love me.
But why would they want to even reunify? One, there's
no
abuse.
efforts.
There's no efforts. There's abuse, and there's conflict of interest. There's bias.
There's illegal
actions on basically on all parties who were supposed to represent and protect the children
and follow the law.
Exactly. I mean, how do you reunify that?
In my estimation, you can. If she wants to reunify, nobody has a problem with that. Then you come out here and you reunify with your child. But what this new psychologist did was overstepped her bounds in a massive way when she was doing Skype with the mother to let the alleged sexual offender Skype with my grandchildren as well.
Is that a court order?
The Skyping with the mother only.
That's a court order. It's put in an order.
Yes, it is.
Not with the abuser.
Now,
right.
does this new therapist have those court orders?
She does now, and she said, I've overstepped my bounds.
We've done some research on this new therapist, folks, just to let you know. Oh, yeah. She has a blog because, and she really, just reading this blog, she looks like a great gal because she was sexually abused. So she has gone into this profession. One day, she says to your son, when she said that, I'm sorry, I have overstepped my boundaries. What's the next thing she says?
She said the kids disclosed more, and I'm going to have to put that in a report.
But what else did she say about forgiving?
She did ask my son, do you not practice forgiving and forgetting?
Forgiving and forgetting. This woman who was abused when she was younger, through her own admission, this is factual, through her own written admission, has a blog. All of these years later, she's still healing, and yet she looks to this dad who has 2 young kids, recent abuse, and she says, forget it. Forgive and forget. Let's move on. Yet she is contradicting her very belief.
Yeah. It's
appalling.
Yeah. I wanted to mention something. The 730 evaluator, the one who is in charge, it's her office, she was also ordered to do a 730 evaluation. I said that drew some concern for me.
She was ordered in your case, in another case, in her own case?
In her own divorce case, she was ordered a 730 evaluation.
Folks, you professionals that are listening out there, if you're not doing it right, believe me, we are all becoming privy. We are going to find your skeletons. And when you are saying something and doing something else, we're going to find it. We're going to post it.
We're going to open that door to that closet.
That's right.
We know.
And then we're going to question you because we want to know. So this woman, did the court transcripts, because I'm aware of this as well, did it ever show that she passed her 730? Were there bad things in her 730?
Nope. I couldn't find anything because the 730 is actually put into another file as a confidential file.
Okay, because it's medical.
Right.
Right.
So we don't know, but the therapist that does the 730s, that oversees the 730s within this office, she's the supervisor. She herself was ordered to take a 730. And typically, when do you take a 730? When there's concern about some mental imbalance.
Right.
And that's when the judge, it's not typical. It's not a protocol for everybody who goes in to take a 730. There's something going on. The supervising therapist of the non-credentialed, unlicensed therapist who actually administered this report had to have a 730 herself. Where the hell is this system going?
Where is justice? Where is justice?
Where is it justice? We need to do something because, folks, everybody that's listening, these grandparents' lives are being destroyed, and it's so typical that families are assassinated in their entirety. They get divorced. Grandparents that have marital problems after being married for 20, 30, 40, 50 years have problems. Why? Because they can't handle it, because their hearts are breaking. Do you sleep normally?
No.
Betsy has been online at 3 o'clock in the morning. If I'm working late and I see her, it's like, Betsy, go to sleep. And her response is, I can't.
I'm sorry to cut you guys off, but it's time already, and it's time to say bye. And I know that we are going to have you back on, Betsy. We're going to have you back on. We want to follow up with your case.
We're going to put the laws out there, folks. Exactly. We're not attorneys and we don't represent people, but what we do is we are neighborly people. We believe in justice, and we are going to fight from it from an advocacy level. Folks, please post some comments about this. We're going to post this case on everything that's public record. Grandparents need to be involved. We need help. We need unity.
And we stand by you, Betsy. We all stand by
100%. We are going to fight like we have been for your grandchildren. And we love you, honey. We do. We're proud of you. Please
Very
be
proud.
strong. Listeners.
And we dedicate a show to children, to a child every week. And this goes to your grandchildren, Betsy. We dedicate this show to them.
Thank you. We love them, honey.
Thank you for listening to the National Safe Child Show on UBN Radio. For past episodes, visit the archives on ubnradio.com. And for more information, go to nationalsafechildcoalition.com.